The fate of the American League wildcard race comes down to this weekend. I'm not kidding when I say that this might be the biggest weekend of the entire MLB season. As of this very moment, Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Seattle occupy the 3 wildcard spots, which has been the case for the better part of the last few weeks. Toronto has a 2.5 game lead, and Tampa has a half game lead on the Mariners, and the Orioles are still lurking back there with a 4 game deficit. Following the games on Wednesday afternoon, which saw the Astros beat the Rays 5-2 to secure their 99th win on the season, along with the Blue Jays getting walked off by the Philadelphia Phillies in the bottom of the 10th inning, and the Mariners absolutely refusing to beat one of the worst teams in all of baseball. However, with the Orioles putting on the Tigers for an 8-1 win, this was an insane day of baseball where all 3 wildcard teams lost, but the one team that is still pretty much in contention for the wildcard, the Orioles, won. There's a lot that could be said about all 3 of the teams in the wildcard standings and their runs at the postseason right now, but this weekend, like I was saying, could have major implications. The Blue Jays and the Rays open up a massive 4-game series against each other at 3:40 today, and they're going to be opening those games in Tampa Bay. Now, the way this works out is if the Rays take 2 of the 4 games, if they go no worse than splitting the series, the Rays would own the tiebreaker against the Blue Jays should there be a tie in the wildcard standings, meaning that if they tied with the Blue Jays, the Rays would get that higher spot. The Rays also own said tiebreaker with the Mariners this year, so if they tie with the Mariners, the Rays would get that spot as well. However, the Mariners own it against the Blue Jays, so if the Mariners and the Blue Jays tied, the Mariners would take that top spot. And with just 2 games separating these 2 teams, if either team sweeps this series, it could have major implications for the wildcard standing. Let's say that the Blue Jays sweep the Rays here. Well, now they have a 6.5 game lead on the Rays and basically have locked up that top spot in the AL wildcard. However, if the Rays sweep the Blue Jays, we'd be looking at a 2-game lead for the Rays on the Blue Jays. With the Mariners, well, honestly, who the hell knows what's going to happen with them? Not only do the Blue Jays and the Rays have a massive series this weekend, but the Orioles also have a humongous series for them this weekend against the AL leading Astros. Now, this is going to be a tough matchup for them, no doubt about it, and I believe, if I remember correctly, the Orioles, they're going to be facing Verlander on the mound. If the Astros could put it on the Orioles, it all but locks up the 3 teams that are currently in the wildcard spots for their respective positions. Let's say, for example, the Astros and the Orioles. Let's say the Astros sweep that series, which in all honesty is incredibly possible. And let's say all the other teams go 500, we're looking at Baltimore being at least 6, maybe 7 games back of the 3rd wildcard spot in the standings. And at that point, with give or take 10 or so games to play, I mean, their chances of making the postseason become minuscule. Now, the Mariners go on to finish their series with the Athletics today at 12:37 Pacific time, and then after that, the Mariners are going to have the day off on Friday. And the Mariners will be flying to Kansas City on the 24th, and they will be taking on the Royals, one of the other worst teams in the American League. Based strictly on strength of schedule, the Mariners have the easiest schedule remaining in all of Major League Baseball. And with some tough games coming up for both the Orioles and the Blue Jays, as well as the Rays even, the Mariners theoretically have a good chance to put it on all of these teams if they could just show up against these different under 500 ball clubs. Unfortunately for the Mariners, teams that are under 500, I'm not kidding when I say the Mariners play down to them more than I've ever seen in my life, and we will have a video coming up about that soon. But basically what I'm saying is this weekend could shape the playoffs. This weekend has major implications on the entirety of the Major League Baseball playoffs coming up next month. These wildcard standings could change drastically by the time we do our next update video, likely on Monday or Tuesday. This series between the Blue Jays and the Rays, quite literally, the season hangs in the balance for these 2 teams. And for the Orioles still trying to hang on to that wildcard hopes, they're going to play the best team in the American League and the 2nd best team in all of baseball. This is the true test for Baltimore. If they make it through this weekend with a relatively even schedule, if they make it through this weekend and they're still in the wildcard hunt, that's an absolute win for them, and then I think we need to be talking about them a little more seriously in the wildcard standings. But don't forget, however, that Baltimore also finishes the year against Toronto. Baltimore's road is not easy, however the Mariners is. The Mariners finished the year against the Athletics, the Tigers, the Royals, and Texas. Now if we go down in the standings and look right down here, who are the worst 4 teams in all of the American leagues? It's Texas, Kansas City, Detroit, and Oakland. The Mariners quite literally finished the year against the 4 worst teams in the league, but they've shown time and time again that it doesn't matter how bad the team is that they're playing, they're not necessarily going to put up any runs against them. As we go into one of the final weekends in baseball this year, I can't help but think of how exciting this weekend could be and how literally every game has such massive implications. And of course, most of us here are Mariners fans, and a lot of the hopes and dreams of the Mariners fans lie in the rest of this road trip and the beginning of the next home series. And Joe did an amazing video about that right here. Go ahead and check that video out right now. I appreciate you guys checking out this video, and go Mariners.